even think he wants to be there. When your defense plays their guts out against Seattle, right? When they play the way they did, and you're on the Seattle 15 down 11 with 8:40 to go, 4th and 4, right? Look, I'm all for being aggressive. Don't worry about the negative outcome, but there's also such a thing as situational football. You're going to need to kick a field goal at least. You have a chance there to limit it to a one-score game, or depending on how you look at it, because you got to go for 2. You got to get it in the end zone twice. Nevertheless, you're still in a position to get the game to overtime, right? To go for it there, to me, in that kind of, you're saying our offense is never going to be down on the 15-yard line again. Right? Like, I don't believe in him. It's saying, I don't want any part of this. When you go to Carson Wentz on 5 consecutive possessions, right? It's 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. You bring in Jalen Hurts. He finally does something positive, a little 6-yard completion. And on 3rd down, Carson Wentz is right back in the game and he gets sacked. To me, that's Doug Pederson saying, okay, tough guy, you want to do it your way? Here you go. There you go. What can you do? And you never give it to Miles Sanders? You never get it. You don't have to run on 1st down all the time, but could you mix a run game in a little bit? It seems to me Doug Pederson doesn't want to be there. This goes, Howie Roseman should go too. And if you can somehow move Carson Wentz's contract, you should start it all over again. Guys, Roseman also was a guy who was saying, remember what was coming out? Like, why didn't they trade for DeAndre Hopkins? They need that top receiver. He didn't want to give up the 2nd-round pick. Really? Because he used that 2nd-round pick. He didn't trade up for C.D. Lamb. He used that 2nd-round pick to get a backup quarterback. Like, nothing makes sense. Nothing fits together, including the owner, Jeffrey Lurie, but you're not going to get rid of the owner right now. So everyone has to go after the season. I don't care if they win the NFC least. They got to make changes.
Listen, Roseman hasn't been perfect. He passed up on DK Metcalf and drafted that dude, J.J. Whiteside or Sega, whatever the hell his name is. See, I don't know because I don't care because he's irrelevant.
Ortega Whiteside.
Yeah, that's exactly all right. We understand that, okay? But let's get that out of the way. But I'm going to tell you, I respectfully disagree. I don't disagree with your takes, Max, just your ultimate conclusion. I'm not giving up on a 28-year-old Carson Wentz who showed me just 3 years ago that he could be great. I think that can be rectified, and I think that ultimately it will be rectified. I think Pederson's tenure in Philadelphia should be contingent on what level of progress we see from Carson Wentz moving forward with these last 5 or 6 games or so. And from there, you make a decision. And I don't need to get rid of Howie Roseman either. He just delivered me a Super Bowl a few years ago, obviously succeeded in the Chip Kelly era. They screwed him over by giving the power to Chip Kelly. They should have never compromised themselves to begin with, but give them credit for making amends and making that correction and then ultimately getting back to giving Howie Roseman some control. And let me speak to this. Ryan Clark, you might know this. I know Max does, but you may know this too. Obviously, I worked in Philadelphia for 17 years. And I worked as a reporter and ultimately was a columnist for my last 7 to 8 years there. I haven't spoken to Jeffrey Lurie in a while, but when I was there, I had a very good relationship with him, and I'm very, very fond of him. I have profound respect for this man. He's been an owner of the Philadelphia, the chairman and the boss and the CEO for the Philadelphia Eagles since 1994. In that span, the man has been to the postseason 15 times. In that span, he's been to 6 conference finals. In that span, he's been to 2 Super Bowls, and he's got a Super Bowl championship. And one of the things that he doesn't do is he doesn't just lollygag around and say, I got you for 5 years, so you got a 5-year contract. He will make the changes that are necessary. I believe in him in that regard. And if what you're saying is correct, Max, in terms of Doug Pederson, he doesn't even want to be there. He said, all right, you don't want to listen, you don't want to do it, all right, go and do it your way. But that's negligence on Doug Pederson's part. You're the head coach. I know for a fact that Jeffrey Lurie is the kind of man, if he hired you to be the head coach, he's going to let you be the head coach. He's going to let you coach your team. So if you've decided I'm going to acquiesce, I didn't say changes in personnel, Max. What I'm saying is if they come to you and they say to you, we want to keep this guy, owner Jeffrey Lurie, pay them, then he's going to let you do that if he elects to pay the dude. Okay? So it's incumbent upon you to cultivate that relationship. And if you haven't done that, then there's a negligence of duty on the part of Pederson. I can't blame Jeffrey Lurie for that. I can't even blame Howie Roseman for that unless Pederson said, I don't want Wentz, and they signed him to that money anyway. That's different. If that's not what happened, and Pederson was in the mix, he has an obligation to do everything he can to make that work and coach his butt off with this kid. He has that obligation.
I mean, we get it now. We could get it at Christmas. I mean, who knows? But when you look at the way the NFL has handled this, I don't necessarily know if you can critique it. I don't necessarily know if you can be critical of it, because it seems that they're trying to keep people safe, that they're trying to keep COVID-19 contained. And if that's their goal, if that's what they're focused on, then that's the right goal. Then that's the right way to move forward. And when you look at what's going on for the Baltimore Ravens, it's been positive test after positive test, even up until yesterday, where even people like Dan Graziano are saying that there are Baltimore Ravens who weren't necessarily comfortable with traveling. And so the NFL has to find a way to play this game eventually. But the fact that it's been postponed in hopes of having the most healthy and safe environment for their players is the right thing to do. And so if you got to watch football at Wednesday, at least Central Time at 2:40, then that's what you do. You sit in front of your TV, you grab some popcorn, and you watch it.
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin is presented by Progressive Insurance. All guests join us here on the Shell Performance Line. Hey, RC, do you think the Steelers are kind of like getting the bad end in this situation?
Well, I mean, it seems that way, obviously, because most of the things are going on in Baltimore. Also, you saw what happened to the Pittsburgh Steelers earlier this year in Tennessee. I mean, it's just with Tennessee, it's just the luck of the draw, man. Like, it just happens to be the Pittsburgh Steeler week, and you have to deal with it. When you look at the way the CBA was set in place, when you look at the protocols that were put in place and the requirements that were put in place for COVID-19, this is part of it. You are subject to it, even if it's not running rampant in your building. And that's what the Pittsburgh Steelers are dealing with. I do find it, I don't know if ironic is the right word, that, the Pittsburgh Steelers were tweeting and they were all upset about people not doing the right thing. And then the one Pittsburgh Steeler that you want to get COVID-19 the least, James Conner, tests positive. And so I think that we all have to be extremely sympathetic. We all have to be extremely understanding about what's going on with people. And yes, they had a strength coach who was doing stupid stuff. And I feel like he should be punished, and the Baltimore Ravens should be punished. But the Pittsburgh Steelers have to know that they're doing what is in the best interest of the health and safety of the players as it pertains to COVID-19. So continue to get ready, continue to push your schedule. Mike Tomlin, continue to preach, as you always do, about winning the game at hand, and that's the way you move forward.
I feel like Pittsburgh hadn't played in like a month, even though they've played here recently.
It feels like it.
It certainly feels that way, RC. Let me ask you this. How do you think they're going to play? I was almost said tonight, because I'm thinking at night. But how do you think they're going to play this afternoon at 3:40, I think it is?
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll play well. I think the one thing that Coach Tomlin always does is helps you understand the moment. It helps to me that it's the Baltimore Ravens, though, that it's a team that you don't really like anyway. It's a team that you respect, but you don't have this admiration for them in the sense of a team that you care about. Like people in the Steelers building, although it's a brotherhood and they want people to be safe from COVID, they don't care that the Baltimore Ravens have those problems. They're probably happy that they do, and they want to make them more miserable. They want to add to that, and that's going to be the talk going around the building, and it's going to be about domination. Keyshawn, you know how it is, man. When sharks see blood in the water, they attack, and there's blood in the water in Baltimore. They weren't playing well before you lose Lamar Jackson to COVID, and now you have these things happen. You push the game back. They're going to want to make the Baltimore Ravens pay for everything that they feel the Baltimore Ravens have put on them, and we'll see that on the grass at 3:40.
RC, give me the real talk like you give it to me when we're at the DoubleTree, all those old school days. What the hell is going on in Philadelphia with the quarterback situation, man?
Bro, Doug Pederson doesn't know, Jay. I can promise you he doesn't know. I can promise you Doug Pederson didn't have a plan for this. The only person in the world that's as close to a bigger fan of Carson Wentz as Doug Pederson is Dan Orlovsky. That's the two people in the world that you would not have been able to convince that Carson Wentz would play this way. I don't think Doug Pederson was all on board with the Jalen Hurts draft. And so now he has a guy who he thought would be great, a guy who finished looking like an MVP last year with backups, and you have a backup quarterback that you draft in the second round that you don't necessarily think could play quarterback right now. And so now that you heard him early on in the season, right? If we go to Jalen Hurts, that means we're giving up on the season. If you bench Carson, he never thought Carson would continue to play this bad. And so when you hear him talk this week and he's like, well, you wish Jalen could get some reps and get some continuity, and then it's because he don't know, y'all. He is at a point where he has no idea how to fix what's going on with Carson Wentz, but he also knows he's stuck with Wentz for at least 2 years. And if Wentz doesn't work, he's fired. And he still doesn't believe in Jalen Hurts enough to say, if I put him in the game, he could save me. The dude has no way to go, man. He's in between a rock and a hard place. And that hard place is going to get him fired because he needs to figure this out.
Let me ask you this real quick, though, Ryan. Is Doug the right man for this particular job? Because I've always said when a coach takes over for a team in his first year, it's always a honeymoon, magical. But over time, they take on the personality of the coach, and you can kind of see what that coach is. Is he the right guy? I know he won a Super Bowl, but is he the right guy?
Yeah, see, and you see the key, that's the hard part, right? It's hard to say that a dude that won the Super Bowl isn't the right guy.